This video is sponsored by DisabilityQuotes.com. They have been helping residents and also practicing physicians find the right type of disability insurance for the past 20 years. This is a type of insurance that ensures that your income continues in the event that you cannot continue practicing medicine. It's important. So important that I personally have disability insurance. Click on the link below in the description for a free quote from them today. What's up, everyone? This is Dr. Webb here. Thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe. New videos coming every week. You don't want to miss them. Today, I have a very special guest. She's going to tell us all about the field of urology, why she went into it, as well as some tips for everyone out there. Welcome, Dr. Miles Thomas. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. And how are you?
I'm doing great. Tell the audience who you are and kind of what you do.
So my name is Dr. Jennifer Miles Thomas. I'm a double board certified urologist. So I'm board certified in urology as well as female pelvic medicine and reconstructive surgery. So I see male and female and some adolescent patients with all types of urologic disorders. I spend a lot of time focusing on the bladder function and reconstruction of the pelvic floor. So it's a pretty interesting mix. My days are very interesting.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can imagine that. For the people who don't know what a urologist is, and you mentioned some long words after that, a pelvic and reconstructive surgeon, what is that?
So like in English, what a pelvic and reconstructive surgeon is. So I summarize it to patients. If something leaks or falls out in the world of urology, that's what I fix.
Okay.
So it's any type of bladder disorder, failure to store, and basically they're leaking all the time, or if they have prolapse and like their bladder falls out, or if they have fistula and they have abnormal communications in their bladder to places in their abdomen or other locations.
Gotcha. And when you were in med school trying to decide upon a specialty, what made you choose urology? What was it about it that kind of got you into it?
Well, I actually went backwards into urology. I came into medicine thinking I was going to be a neurosurgeon.
Oh.
So the whole Ben Carson. When I was younger, I did have spinal meningitis, so I spent a lot of time in the hospital with physicians. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be a neurosurgeon. That's what I'm going to do. And then everyone in medical school goes through rotations. And one of them, I spent time on the neurosurge rotation, as well as a little bit in the neuro ICU, so all of those patients who are critically ill. Mm-hmm. And I realized emotionally I couldn't do that. I'm a very big quality of life person, and sometimes you do your best and forces beyond you take control. And I did not think that I could do that day in and day out. So one of my friends, who is a male, said, hey, you should do urology. And honestly, I said, well, that's a bunch of old men. Like, why would I want to do that? But I did the rotation anyway. And every time I walked into the room, the wife of the patient would say, oh my gosh, are you going to be a urologist? And of course I smile and say, of course. And I started looking into it and realizing, you know what? 50% of the patients are female, but at the time, less than 5% of urologists were women.
Whoa.
And so I said, whoa, okay. And African-American women? Yeah, not that many at all. So I decided to go into urology because I learned it's medicine as well as surgery. And basically you could have there's so many subspecialties in urology, you could have a varied practice. It's not just all prostate cancer or erectile dysfunction. There's a lot more that goes into it.
Got you. Glad you mentioned that because I was actually interested in urology as well. Mm-hmm. I like the aspect of there's a good amount of procedures that you can do and good amount of clinic. Like you said, medicine that's intertwined. That's what I enjoyed about urology, and I rotated on it. But
exactly. And it's a long-term career. So there are a lot of procedures we do in the office. So towards the end of your career, if you're not interested in doing larger surgeries or spending time in the hospital, there's still a lot you can contribute in the office and still have a very viable career.
Got you. And in terms of a lifestyle as a surgeon, work-life balance, and then being a surgeon, and then everything else, can you have a life outside of medicine with being a urologist? A lot of students are kind of curious about that. They hear the word surgeon or surgery, and they just get scared away because of the hours and the commitment to it.
Yeah, so you can. So I'm married. I have 3 children,
Well,
and I'm happily married to a husband that has his own career. So you can, but it's all about timing. You can't have everything at the same time. So there's a balance. I had my children when I was still a resident. And so literally, I mean, I was blessed that I didn't have any pregnancy complications or anything like that. But you know what? I worked hard. I worked very hard for a very long time. And at this point, on the other side, as an attending, I make my own lifestyle. So I do work full time. I'm in the operating room either 2 or 3 days a week, and I'm in clinic either 2 or 3 days a week. That gives me a good balance. So sometimes clinic is stressful, sometimes the hospital is stressful, but when I come home, I'm just mom or I'm just wife. So I've learned to be very efficient in the office. So when I'm done, I'm done. If I'm not on call, everything else waits until the next morning. Some things, occasionally emergencies happen and you deal with them, but most of the time, I would say my hours are from about 7:30, because that's typically when the OR starts here, and I'm leaving the hospital, the office, sometime between 5:30 and 6. My kids are very active in sports. I pick them up afterwards. I do have help that drops them off, but when I come home, I'm mom. We do our homework, we do our projects. On the weekends, we do things together. I mean, I'm just a normal person who multitasks like many people that are out there. It just happens that my job is being a surgeon.
Yeah, and that's really refreshing to hear, because I have a lot of students that are concerned about having kids and residency or med school, and then trying to manage that with a very busy lifestyle as a physician. So that's really good to hear. To become a urologist, it requires 4 years of medical school, and then it's 5 years of residency.
It's 5 or 6 years. It depends on where you go. Okay. Yeah, so I trained at Hopkins, and so that program has 1 year of general surgery and either a year or a year and a half of basic science, so lab or bench work. So if you're at an academic institution like that, it may be a little bit longer, but during that time, that research time, you're really exploring what you want to do. If you go to a facility like Hopkins, they have so many resources. You just get time to think. And when you have time to think, then you can invent. You can create whatever you want, whatever your goals are, your desires. Some things will work out, some things won't. So like I really worked a lot on stem cell work for regeneration of the bladder. And even though I was able to regenerate certain aspects, it really gave me a different respect for the bladder and the human body, just of how we're put together. And I think that really, led into my career now doing reconstructive surgery and doing a lot of quality of life with the bladder issues.
Gotcha. And you mentioned Ben Carson was kind of influential and possibly decided to go into neurosurgery. Did you ever run into him at Hopkins during your time there?
Yes. So before I left, I actually asked him if I could scrub with him.
Oh, awesome.
But the answer was yes, but I decided to stay on the other end and basically watch on the anesthesia side. Yeah. And so I actually watched him coach a resident through a case. He's very calm, a little bit sarcastic, but funny, straightforward. He'll call you on something if you're doing it wrong. Yeah. But he was a great teacher, and he was really a super nice and a good person. So I really respect him a lot.
Gotcha. I was fortunate enough to meet him when he came to San Antonio for a book signing. I got a copy of his book. But once you're done with all your training, your medical school, your residency, what potential fellowship options are there for urologists?
So for urologists, you have quite a few options. One option is what's called endourology. And in English, that basically means someone who uses a lot of scopes, the fiber optic scopes, to fix the kidney, to repair when things are not connected right, or a lot of stone work. So I live in Virginia currently, and it's a large stone belt. So there are a lot of people who have stones on a daily, monthly, weekly basis. So endourologists do a lot with stones. You can also do oncology. So kidney cancer, testicular cancer, prostate cancer, all of those, bladder cancer. You can do an entire fellowship in oncology also. Another option is what I do, which is female pelvic medicine and reconstructive surgery. So that is a lot of what's called prolapse, if the bladder falls or if the uterus falls, a lot of what we call voiding dysfunction, people who leak or can't empty their bladder. And you can also choose to do pediatrics, which is a whole nother field. So there are also pediatric fellowships available.
And gotcha. And once you're done with all your training, I know it varies by location and practice type. How much can a urologist expect to make once you're done with your training?
It depends. So if you're in academics, probably somewhere around $200,000, $250,000. If you are out in private practice, it's basically unlimited. So it depends on where you want to live and things called ancillary services. So a lot of times urologists will own their own surgery center, or they'll have a machine called a lithotripter, which is a way to break up the stones from the outside. And then your income can be $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 easily.
Gotcha. And speaking about finances, I know you have a book, you're author, Financially Fit Physicians. Tell us about your book and what inspired you to write that.
Well, my book is called Financially Fit Physicians by Dr. Jen MD. It is available on Amazon. I was inspired to write it because I was angry. That's the honest truth. Yeah. So a lot of times in medical school and residency, you're just working hard. Like you're literally trying to survive, figuring out how you're going to learn the information. And so you don't talk about money. And at first it's perfectly fine until you get out in the real world and you realize, hey, I have $200,000 in student loans. Like I got to figure out some way to make these payments, and I don't want to spend 20 years paying it off. And so I started talking to more people, starting to get more ideas, started hustling a lot more, started reading, and figured out how to pay off all of our debts. And when I was mentioning it to my friends, I was like, hey, are you guys doing X, Y, and Z? It was like, blank stare. They were just living day to day trying to, I don't think people realize how many physicians are in debt, how many physicians don't have savings. It's kind of the American culture says, oh, doctors are rich, surgeons are rich. No. Doctors are in debt. Surgeons are in debt. And I think there's a big kind of shadow because we can't really talk about it openly. No one wants to hear a doctor complain about money. If you turn on the news, healthcare is expensive. But what the news doesn't say is the majority of healthcare dollars are not going to physicians. They're going to everyone in the middle who's not actually delivering the care. So what I wanted to do was just kind of help my fellow physicians and residents. Hey, this is the baseline knowledge, what you need to know so you can make good decisions so you don't have to fall into the trap that I fell into.
Gotcha. And I don't want to give all the secrets away from your book, but for medical students out there or pre-med students, what are some, maybe if you can give one or two things that they can be doing now that can potentially set them up for success financially in the future?
So I would say the first thing is learn to talk about money. So it's kind of the unsaid rule. And I like the fact that you asked what the salaries are for urologists, because people don't ask. People are trying to search on Google, trying to search like pay scale. It doesn't mean that information is accurate. Figure out how to talk to people who are in positions where you want to be and have an honest conversation. Because you know what? If you directly ask them, a lot of times they will tell you, or they'll give you some more information. And then you're far ahead of the game. The other thing is, while you're going through medical school, pay attention to costs. I mean, you show up, oh, I need this book. Oh, they'll give me some more. I'll just stop by financial aid. Guess what? You have to pay it back. Yeah. You really do. So make some good decisions as you're going through the process. So at the end of the day, you will not owe as much, because if something happens and you don't get that, urology position, you still owe that money. And it's very difficult to find employment besides being a physician that will pay you enough to pay off those student loans in a timely manner.
Gotcha. For students out there that are interested in either urology or just being a doctor in general, what kind of advice would you have for them?
Figure out why you really want to do it. I think culturally, a lot of times we say, oh, it's great. And your family will say, it's great to be a doctor. It's great to be a physician. They're going to be very proud. But you know what? It's your life. You are honestly giving up your 20s and part of your 30s to do this. It's not even a career. It's a lifestyle. And you have to love what you do, because if you don't, it's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. So I would tell them to figure out what you like about medicine. Is it just helping people? Because there's many other ways you can do that. Or do you actually love medicine? Do you have to want to be the one to contribute? Do you want to teach others? Do you like teaching the public about their body, about healthy lifestyles? That's what you have to have a passion about. Otherwise, you can find another role, another way to help them. But medicine is a lifestyle. And if the earlier you recognize that, the less bitter you'll become.
Yeah, that's some really good advice. And I try to stress that to students all the time. Dr. Jen, thank you so much for joining me today. You're a big inspiration to a lot of us. That's why I reached out to you. I haven't met many Black urologists, maybe one in the past. So it's to see you in this position, that's definitely a big inspiration. If someone wanted to get in touch with you or learn more about your book or purchase your book, how can they do that?
Well, probably the easiest way is just to go to my website, which is www.drjenmd.com. Or if they want to, they can just send me an email. It's simply info@drjenmd.com.
Okay, awesome. And I will put the website as well as your email in the description.
Okay,
thank you so much and for joining me today, and congrats on all your success.
Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed this, definitely. Thank you.
And everyone else out there, thank you for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe. New videos coming every week. You don't want to miss them. We'll see you next time.